about him and wanted to learn more about hip hop. He is the founder of the vegan hip hop movement, and he basically talks a lot about the intersectionality between food justice, the plant-based decolonial diet, and I didn't know what the word decolonial meant.
Me neither.
And hip hop, which actually I realized how little I knew about hip hop also. So we're going to talk about that. And he wants to use the music as a platform to give voice to those who are not normally heard. That's what hip hop as a cultural movement, one of the things that it started out being about. And, it's voices like Kevin's that we all need to pay more attention to, including those of us on this podcast and those of us listening to this podcast. So I want to welcome Kevin Tillman, who's vacationing in Mexico right now. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to Dotsie and me.
For sure. Thank you.
So I want to start off with, can we start off just asking about hip hop first? Because you are the founder of the vegan hip hop movement, and there's so many genres and subgenres of music. Can you tell us what hip hop is, the music, but also the culture?
Sure. Yeah. So hip hop was founded in the South Bronx in the late 70s. And so hip hop was essentially liberation music, at its core, right? It was created by Black and brown folks, poor, living in the South Bronx. It was a way of just expression, right? So whether it was, DJs coming together and MCs, and then B-boys and B-girls, as well as graffiti writers, just all elements expressed. And it was just a way to, it was kind of like medicine, right? Because the South Bronx in the late 70s was not thriving by any means. And the Bronx today, in many respects isn't, so it was about uplifting the community through hip hop ultimately.
And how is it different from rap, for example?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on who you ask, because essentially rap and hip hop can be synonymous. Myself is sometimes I call myself a hip hop purist, and I try and maybe distinguish between rap and hip hop. But I guess, there's a difference between hip hop that expresses the elements or is true to the art, right? So the 5 elements of hip hop as I listed. But there's a difference between that and commercial rap or commercial hip hop, for instance. So corporate stuff that you hear on the radio. I guess the difference between rap and hip hop is, and again, they can be synonymous, but I guess I prefer to say there's a difference between true to the art hip hop, hip hop that is expressive of the elements of hip hop. Again, DJs, graffiti writers, B-boys, B-girls, MCs, obviously. And there's other elements or facets of hip hop. But there's a difference between those who adhere or practice hip hop in its kind of original form versus corporate rap or corporate hip hop, artists who just, they put out messages that are pretty congruent with the status quo, right? Whether it's glorifying violence or conspicuous consumption. So there's a vast difference. And sometimes there's crossover as well.
Yeah. I went to college in Philadelphia in the early 90s and hip hop was massive in that period of time in Philly. And to me it felt like a culture, like a movement. I knew that there was hip hop music. I thought it was kind of like rap, but rap was to me just a form of music, but it felt very much like a culture was forming and brewing, which obviously now I'm learning it had been for 20 years. It started in the 70s. But does it feel like its own culture to you, hip hop?
Absolutely. I lived in England in the late 90s, and that was where I saw hip hop kind of just being really preserved. And I've heard this over the years, and definitely just through conversation with numerous artists who would travel and just embase themselves in Europe to just I don't know, be more successful as MCs or DJs, for instance. But I noticed at shows consistently, like all of the elements were pretty much expressed. Like they had space for like DJs, for the MCs, for B-boys and B-girls. Like there was a graffiti artist or numerous graffiti artists in the background just creating art, you know? So it was just like a space that that was just like alive, like in expressing all the elements, as opposed to, you know, like being at a club, for instance, where they're just playing like oppressive music, you know, that's just like over some like simple beat.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.